Well, people in Louisiana are still feeling the crunch of the state's insurance rates, but relief could be coming as a result of legislation that was passed earlier this year.
And more homeowners are taking advantage of incentives to prepare their homes ahead of future hurricanes. Johnny Atkinson joins us in studio. And Johnny, you spoke to Insurance Commissioner Tim Temple.
Yeah, and he had a lot of really good information. Hurricane season just ended, but the commissioner says homeowners should not let their guard down. He's encouraging people to strengthen the roofs of their homes ahead of the future storms. Well, joining us now is Louisiana Insurance Commissioner Tim Temple. He's here to talk about a major milestone in the state's Fortified Roofs program. Tell us about this program.
Yeah, you know, I'm very proud of the fact that we now have 10,000 fortified roofs on in Louisiana. And it's really important to highlight the fact that a year ago, we had about 1,000. So within the last year, we've put almost 9,000 fortified roofs on. A portion of those have come through the grant program. The Louisiana Insurance Department has a fortified grant program so people can apply. If you become an applicant and you're awarded this grant, you'll receive up to $10,000 towards fortifying your roof. This last grant application, 1,000 grants that were available for award. We had over 10,000 people apply for that. But also, of those 10,000, 6,000 people chose to put a fortified roof on themselves, pay for it themselves.
And pay for it themselves,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if a person does want to get the fortified roof, and how can they apply for a government-paid fortified roof?
Yeah, you can go through the Department of Insurance website at www.ldi.la.gov. There's a very prominent tab on the website. You click on that, and it walks you through the process to do that. But also, as we mentioned, the 6,000 people so far that have chose to put a fortified roof and pay for it themselves, you can also receive either a tax credit or a tax deduction. So if you choose to pay for it, there's ways to help incentivize people for doing that. And then also, it's very important to remember that if you get a fortified roof, every admitted carrier in the state that writes homeowners has a filed discount with the Department of Insurance.
Okay.
So you're getting a fortified roof, you get that peace of mind that your shingles are going to stay on, your contents are going to stay dry. That's good for you, the homeowner, and it's good for the community because it builds resiliency.
Well, a lot of people have seen their insurance prices go up, and they're wondering, we passed laws that to make the insurance less. So what can people expect in the future?
We had a package of bills that I had helped shepherd through the process. And, again, the legislature passed it, the governor signed them, and we're starting to see the positive impacts of that. The rate increases that insurance companies take are less. The number of increases that they're asking for are fewer. And in addition to that, we've had several insurance companies take rate decrease. We've got reinsurance costs coming down. We were very blessed this year. We didn't have a hurricane impact anywhere in the United States. So that helps on reinsurance cost. We live in a hurricane-prone part of the country. 50% of our population lives within 50 miles of the Gulf. They're going to be exposed to hurricane force winds. So we need to build more resilient structures, stronger properties, and look at our building codes and make sure we're keeping up and enforcing those building codes.
Well, what about the auto insurance? You announced the insurance reform package for drivers. How does that work?
Yeah, look, we've made some progress this year in Louisiana, and at the end of the day, losses drive premiums. And in Louisiana, we have a loss problem. We file bodily injury claims twice the national average. We file litigation 2 to 3 times the national average, and that increases the cost of a claim. Fortunately, last year, the legislature called themselves into, they had 14 individual hearings to talk about cost drivers, why the cost of a claim is more expensive in our state versus other states. And the legislation that we had asked the bills that we asked the legislature to address this past session, a lot of those were designed to help rebalance the system, to reduce the incentive people have to file what I would call, potentially fraudulent claims, but claims where they really weren't injured, there wasn't a lot of damage, but they felt incentivized to file a claim and try and get some money, easy money. We're trying to rebalance that. If people have a legitimate auto wreck and they have legitimate bodily injury as a result of that, they need to be taken care of. But we're talking about the people that abuse the system. And so what we're trying to do is disincentivize people from abusing the system. That adds cost, and we as ratepayers bear the burden of that.
What other changes do you see in the future of insurance in Louisiana?
Yeah, look, we compete for insurance company capacity. No insurance company, they don't have to do business in the state of Louisiana. They can pick and choose where they want to put their capital at risk. And so we need to continually work to make sure that Louisiana is, again, as I said earlier, a stable, predictable place to do business. And we work through that through legislation. The last 2 years that I've, since I've been commissioner, we've worked with the legislature and state leaders and stakeholders to try and push that initiative. We're going to continue to do it. We need to compete against other states. Just recently, earlier this year, Georgia passed legal reform in their state to make their state more attractive. Florida did some major reform in the last several years. Other states are actively looking at doing legal reform or have recently done legal reform. So we can't afford to stop. We need to continue to push and promote our state, make our laws, make sure that we're competitive so that we don't fall further behind. I don't want to fall further behind. I want to catch up to where those other states are so that the premiums in Louisiana are more closely aligned to what we see in other states.
All right, some really good information, and I think people out there seeing that can help. Thank you. This is Tim Temple, the Louisiana Insurance Commissioner.
Thank you.